こんにちは YouTube 僕の名前はNikorasusenseiだ Hello everybody, this is my third video on learning Japanese, and this video is going to be about conjugating verbs. Now, I think verbs are one of the most important words that you can know when using this language or any other language. And if you look in the dictionary, if you use a Japanese to English dictionary like this, then when you look up verbs, you get the informal immediate way of saying it, the informal present way of saying it, pretty much. And all of those ways end with "u", some form of "u". So it's kind of confusing when you're using the mas form, when you're learning about the mas form, and that's basically all you know how to do. And you're looking up new verbs and you don't know how to use it in mas form because it's in "u" form, and which is the informal present way of saying something. Every verb can be changed to the informal way of saying something. You just have to know how to do it, and it's called conjugation when you change it. So in English, words like, I'm going to use to do for example. To do, there's certain situations that we conjugated ourselves, I guess. I don't know if it's called conjugating with our language, but whatever. You could say, I do something. I do something. You could say, I'm doing something. I did something. Or I'm going to do something. So I'm going to teach you those. The first thing you need to know about conjugating your verb, if you look it up randomly out of the dictionary, is to know what group it's in. There are only three groups in Japanese for verbs. I'm not sure. I don't think there's any more. Not right now, I don't. But group 1 verbs always end with "u". They always end with "u". Some examples of that would be to talk, hanasu, or that would be one example. Hanasu ends with "u". If you're studying conjugation, I would always intend you to write it in English or Romanji, okay, when you're writing this out, because it'll be easier to conjugate. Because we use, when you're conjugating, you're gonna drop each, like, letters, not whole things like in Japanese does. Well, yeah, whatever. So group 1 verbs end with "u". And there are a few exceptions. Well, there's some extra verbs that are still group 1 verbs, and we'll get into those in a second. Group 2 verbs end with "iru" or "eru". Examples of this would be "kiru", because it ends with an "iru" sound. "Kiru", and that is to wear something. "Kiru". "Miru", to see something. "Miru" also ends with "iru". So that is the second one. They can also end with "eru", like "akeru", which is group 2 for open. So those are verb groups 2. There are exceptions that in group 2. There's a list. I have a list. They're not very many. I'm sure there's more, but these are what I'm going to teach you. That even though they end with "iru" or "eru", they still go in group 1. These verbs are "hairu", to enter; "hashiru", to run; "iru", to need; "kaeru", to return; "kiru", to cut; "shaberu", to chatter, I guess, to chatter, to talk, talk too much; "shiru", to know, I guess. The third group is my favorite group. It's the absolute easiest one because there's only two things that grow. There's only two things that go in this group, and those are so those are their own things. Okay, so now if you can categorize your verbs into group 1, group 2, and group 3, that's the first step when you're using the dictionary to find out what you're going to do. Let's see here. For group 1, I'm going to teach you the tab form first. And the tab form is either a command for a verb, like do whatever I'm telling you, or the tab form can be used as in like I'm doing something if you add iru at the end of that. So tab form is really important. Before you learn tab form, what I advise you to do is to learn the informal past way of saying something, of saying the verb. So in group 1, this is how we're going to conjugate. In group 1, to change something to the informal past form, which I'm saying like, I did this. It's not do, it's did. Pretty much any verb. It's not run, it's ran. It's not look, it's looked. It's a past tense of a verb. So I made up a little song that goes with this one because it's kind of difficult to understand how to do this. Basically, the first things you do is the way you're going to conjugate this group is if it ends with ku, the verb ends with ku, you change it to ita. If the verb ends with gu, you change it to ida. If the verb ends with u, tsu, or ru, you change the verb to tsuta. Pretty much, it's a silent kind of a tsu. Tsu, if you have a word with a tiny tsu in it, that means that there's a double consonant in your word. So in English, you'd write, so like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example here. Like height to enter. It's height. So you have two T's there. That's basically what that means. And when you're trying to speak it, you should put a little pause in your word height. Pretty much like that. So u, tsu, and ru turn to the small tsu and ta at the end of the word. So ta. I'll say it like ta. And the next ones are nu, bu, and mu. If any of the verbs are in group 1 and they end with nu, bu, or mu, you change the verb to inda. And finally, if your verb ends with asu, you change it to shita. These are informal ways of saying things. So just talking to family and stuff, which is what, when you watch stuff, most of these people use this. They don't use mas form all the time. The song I made was ku ita gu ida utsuru ta nubu mu nda su shita. Kuida, utsuru, ta, nubumu, nda, sushita. Group 2 is these groups get easier now. Ru, in group 2, you change the ru at the end to ta. Pretty easy, right? Ru to ta. And for group 3, which are their own little things, kuru and suru, they change. Kuru turns to kita, and suru turns to shita.